Yeah, if you want, you can go do that. I'm not in there. All right. I've got a big exciting thing for today, and I'm really happy that everybody's coming out. It's a slightly different setup, so bear with me with the cameras. And, we're having some fun though. I got a very special guest, and she'll be joining us in a few minutes. But in the meantime, let's go through today's page. Today's page is the suggestion which came from Dee W. And it was, hold on, we're getting there. It's in here. I know it is. Where did the giraffes originate from? The underworld. So that was today's suggestion. So this is the page that I came up with. I drew it last night, or yesterday, I guess it was, because I drew it really fast. And it was in pencil on paper, and I just straight drew it, scanned it, and then colored it. So this one went really quickly, and I was really pleased with it. And we got an interesting one suggested for today, so I'll be working on that. But brace yourselves. I got a very super exciting guest that's joining me today, and
all the way from upstairs.
All the way from a land called Upstairs. So I got Lori joining me in the studio today. So take a peek. Here we go. Bingo. There you are. You're on camera now.
All right.
Yeah. So oh, you've already got yay, Lori. That's Dee Dee. So there's your page. So I showed your page for today, Dee Dee. Thank you for the suggestion. It was a lot of fun. And Miriam says, hi, Lori. Hi, Christopher.
Hi, Miriam.
So it's just the most exciting streams that I have is when you come and join me. Because a lot of times...
I don't believe that.
No, it is. Because unless it's when you're here or when there's guests here joining me on the stream, I kind of feel like a crazy person, and the cats look at me like a confirmed crazy person. So, we've got Chris says, hi there, everyone. Hiya, Chris. And then, are you tired, Lori? Rest after you've taken such a long trip from the magical land of upstairs in your office.
It makes me think of Lion Witch in the Wardrobe. Like, didn't they called the creatures had different names for the rooms? You don't know what I'm talking about.
No, I do. I read all the 7 books, but which are you talking about? The rooms in the house or the rooms in the castle?
They would refer to the wardrobe as they had a.
Oh, they all had different names for the corridor, for the tunnel,
yes.
for the and it was super super interesting, that series. I still prefer The Magician's Nephew. I think it's called. The first book might still be my favorite because it's so weird. Because the uncle of the kids, the great uncle, not the uncle, but the great uncle of the kids, his uncle was a magician, but a true magician, and so he was visiting him, and something happened that transports him to this sort of area that has all these pools of water, and all these pools of water are around the trunk of this great big tree, and so each of those pools of water goes to a different land, and one of those lands is the land of the Ice Queen, and she chases him back. And I think the nephew of, like, the magician made the wardrobe, is I think what it is, and he made it out of the tree from the magical land or something. But she chases him back when she gets teleported into the other land of Aslan, the lion.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why there's a street lamp that's always lit. Is that as they're running through the worlds, that came too.
Okay.
So that's why the random street lamp. Anyways, it doesn't matter. I'm just blathering. Marguerite's joined us. She says hello. Okay, so love how Christopher is so serious when he tells a fictional story. Details are important. Okay, so as usually when Lori does, and for those that are joining that haven't met Lori yet, this is my better half, and she's here in the studio. And usually when you come down, you tell us about some books that you're reading or some books that you found interesting that you've already read and things like that. So feel free.
Okay.
What do you got?
So we went to the library bookstore, right?
Yeah, that was dangerous.
And I found, this first one I'm putting forward because I want to hear you imitate him.
Which is this?
It's Lyndon McIntyre. He's the Fifth Estate journalist. He's a fantastic author. It's a Canadian, a CBC documentary. But this book is about the Newfoundland tsunami of November 18th, 1929.
Is that the guy that did The Fifth Estate?
Yeah, that's what I just said. But that's not how Lyndon McIntyre sounds. Do
No,
you not know
I can't.
how
I
he
can't remember.
sounds?
Is he the coaster guy, or is he the older guy? There's so many people were on.
Oh, I'm disappointed that you don't know.
I have to look up Lyndon McIntyre now. I've let everyone down. What do we got? Mariah has joined us as well. Hi, Mariah.
I'm excited to read that book, and he's an excellent. Oh, here's a picture of him.
Okay, I remember that guy. I can't do his voice, but I remember that guy.
It's very unique.
Yeah.
His voice.
Yeah, we got a lot of the Canadian newscasters also all have very Miriam's saying, Google it, Christopher.
I
don't know where I put my
is
phone.
the book getting into the camera shot?
Yeah. No, the whole area is in the camera shot.
Oh, okay, good. All right.
So you can go like this, and you'll be in the camera shot, Lori. If you wanted to go like this right now, or maybe not.
And I think I maybe got this from the library book sale too.
I think I threw my phone over there.
It's called One Day Closer.
Oh yeah, okay, look it up.
A Mother's Quest to Bring Her Kidnapped Daughter Home by Lorinda Stewart. A beautiful story of what love can do to conquer the impossible. That's a quote from Jan Arden, another Canadian
Singer-songwriter.
Canadian singer-songwriter, and she's got a fantastic sitcom called Jan, streamed on CTV. It's hilarious, and she pretends that she has a rivalry with Sarah McLachlan.
Oh, that's right. They even get into a fight. And they even get into a wrestling match on the front
fight.
lawn of the house. It's like you gotta love when people are such good sports like that.
Yeah.
And for these two respected Canadian singer-songwriters, well, I mean they're much larger than that, but they're from Canada anyways. To get into a roll around on the ground brawl, and they're not young ladies. I mean, they got to be in their 40s, 50s. It was great.
And then I've got The Queen's Secret,
Right from the bleachers.
a novel of England's World War II queen. So this is about the Queen Mum.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say, because Elizabeth was 26 when she took the crown, and she was a 11, 12, 13-year-old, I think, during World War II.
Probably, yes. It's no surprise to her that Hitler has dubbed her the most dangerous woman in Europe. For behind that soft voice and kindly demeanor is a will of steel.
Dun dun
So
dun.
I was intrigued by that. And then, here comes Lyndon McIntyre again.
Oh, for heaven's sakes.
Don Gilmore, To the River, Losing My Brother. And the quote, a beautiful, shattering book, wise and honest and exquisitely written. Lyndon McIntyre.
I promise I'll do a Lyndon
You have
McIntyre
to
impression
now.
for Monday. Oh, there's my phone. I can look him up.
Okay, perfect. So this is a Canadian story as well. It took place in Whitehorse, Yukon. So I'm really interested in that. Yeah.
So with all the stuff that you've been reading, Are you? Is there anything that really sort of sticks to mind that just sort of? I don't know. Like that's the book of the year for you, the book that you remember more than any others, because you're reading a lot of stuff right now. Because we read a lot.
Yeah, I always have a number of books on the go because it depends on the mood that I'm in and how awake I am, how long I'm going to last. Because I usually read before bed.
Quite the parking job.
I'm looking up a video of Linda McIntyre. Quite the parking job.
So I'm just about done a book.
Tambien. There we go.
It's a story.
In Spanish, Maria? That's French.
I think I'm in a Canadian, just by happenstance, I'm in a Canadian, what do you call that, track? Okay, you're getting Lyndon.
I remember this guy now. He was a kook.
He's not a kook.
Well, no, he's a great Canadian guy, but he's not like a Peter Bansbridge or
No, but he's still brilliant.
There's a Canadian voice, don't you find? Because we've been reading a lot of Canadian stuff for years.
Like East Coast.
But there's a Canadian voice, whether it's on the coast, on one coast, it's on the other coast, or it's in the prairies. Like a Stuart McLean, isn't he from the prairies?
I don't know.
The guy that does the...
He's not with us anymore.
No, but he did the... What was it called? Ma and I were making a turkey. Or Ma was making her fantastic turkey. What was that guy? It's going to drive us crazy. What do we got? She said as well. We always say tambien. Oh, nice. There we go. There's this sort of Canadian identity, this Canadian voice that we hear that I don't recognize as being the Canadian voice until I hear Americans. And then I realize, there is a different dialectic that goes on between, because we tend to drag vowels. I think that's the big difference between how, Canadians across the spread of the country, like the only people in Canada that say, "What's this all about?" Those are Northern Vancouvers, but a lot of Americans believe that's a Canadian dialect. What's going on? What's it all about, eh? That's north. That's the northern sort of dialect that happens. But down south, I think we have this sort of, it's like a little lilting roller coaster in the way that we speak, right? It's hard to explain. Marguerite says Gabrielle Roy, R-O-I, right? Mariah says, but y'all sound like that to us. So what's going on there, bud? There's a funny thing where years ago I went up north and there's a stereotypical...
Like, we have to clarify, up north.
Oh, up north is north of... it's up around Hudson's Bay, so if you look on the map, it's that big clunk of water at the top of Ontario. Northern Ontario, northern Quebec. There's stereotypical accents. Like in northern Quebec, everybody talks like this. They got that accent there, right? And it's a hard D's, right? Instead of T sounds, it's D sounds. And then there's the stereotypical Aboriginal sound. Hey, what's going on there, bud? There's that voice. And a really funny thing up in the Gatineau region of Quebec, which is just north of Ottawa, because our seat of government is located right out of the way. It's been located so far out of the way because of the War of 1812. They put our seat of parliament in Ottawa, of all places. Completely ridiculous, because it was always in Toronto. But Toronto's too close to be invaded by the Americans. That's why they put it in Ottawa. Anyhow, I was up in that region, and there were a bunch of Aboriginal guys who all spoke with this accent here, which is the stereotypical Quebecer, and there's a bunch of Quebecers that all talk like this, eh? It just completely threw me off. Because, I don't know what it is, reverse stereotype. Miriam says, don't you all want to know Don't you all want to know what you sound like to me, like in English? Well, it would be substantially different for Miriam because Miriam is Spanish, but she's living in Israel, so she's also got the dialogue Hebrew. She speaks in Hebrew there, and so she's got two different things going on. So we must sound like jibber jabber. Mariah says it isn't heavy, but that's what we hear. It ain't heavy. We're your Canadian brothers. Sorry, I can't stop myself sometimes. All right, so well, just making sure I'm all caught up. Gabrielle Wa, what is the reference to that Marguerite? Am I missing part of things? Is that a Canadian author? Maybe we should check out. Have you ever heard of Gabrielle ROI?
No.
Yeah, there's so many interesting Canadian authors. We were just talking. Lori found a really interesting book written by Anne Rice before she passed away. Where Nests the Watermelon?
ROI.
Yeah. Where Nests the Watermelon?
There's a ROY, who's a Canadian author from Manitoba.
Did she write Where Nests the Watermelon? Ugh. It's a weird wild book.
Major figures in French Canadian literature.
Oh, there we go. There's a couple of books that I tried.
Where Nests the Water Hen.
Water hen. I like watermelon. Water hen. Yeah, she already corrected it. I still like watermelon. Where Nests the Watermelon?
That sounds like an autocorrect.
That sounds like a Christopher title. It sounds like the way that I do things. Okay, so what have you been working on lately, Laura? What kind of artsy stuff are you doing? So there's Mariah says that makes more sense, but the watermelon sounds much funnier. What is it? Where rests the water hen? I'll write it down so we can look it up. Here, you can write it down. Bob and Doug McKenzie. Nice one, eh? I absolutely adore Bob and Doug McKenzie to this day.
Yeah, they're very funny, but they're not representative of all of Canada. They really push stereotypes. They extremely over-accented stereotypes. And unfortunately, because it was so big in the States, a lot of Americans think that's what Canadians sound like. And it's kind of like, I know you don't like, you're not a big fan, but the Royal Canadian Air Force.
Oh, they were extreme.
But they really pushed the Canadian stereotype. And
extremes.
We're always sitting in
Tim Hortons, and the cops are always ready to fine us there, and tell us to simmer down now. Yeah, you best behave. And shooting things out of cannons, that was my favorite thing.
Yeah.
Right. The funniest thing the Royal Canadian Air Force did was fire chickens out of cannons. or turkeys. It was turkeys. Thanksgiving. Yeah. Linda Renz has joined us. Hi, Linda. But I loved Bob and Doug. The whole reason that came about is SCTV, when they were recording all the shows, they were told by the CBC, Canadian Broadcasting Corporation, that they had to have at least this percentage of Canadian content in these shows. And so Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas were sitting hanging out at the end of a day with the crew, and they quickly cobbled together the Great White North backdrop, and they threw a bunch of cases of beer and a couple of chairs and a table that were all in the sort of in the industrial studio that they were recording in, and the two guys just ad-libbed ad-libbed the stereotypical Canadians. Marguerite loves talking to Canadians with Rick Mercer.
Yes. Yeah.
My favorite Rick Mercer stuff is the rants. I loved his rants, and Hand in My Pocket. That's my favorite song that he had on his show. Hand in My Pocket is there's a song. There was the Canadian taxes commercials. Where Canadian income tax commercials did that thing,
Yes.
and
Yeah.
so the song "Hand in My Pocket" is used, but they did it as "Knee in My Package," and so it's about Canadian tax officials walking up and just nailing everybody. Don't forget to pay your taxes. Just pure Rick Mercer comedy, you know. But SCTV had a massive impact on me, and then as I was
What about 20? This hour has 22 minutes.
well, that's where Mercer came from, right?
Yep.
They were more interesting to me than the Air Farce were. And then SCTV, as I got a little bit older, not much older, but was Kids in the Hall. And just pure Canadian comedy. And what's interesting about that is that Kids in the Hall were produced by Lorne Michaels at the same time he's doing Saturday Night Live, which is kind of creative. The Duct Tape movie. Oh, Red Green. You were talking about Red Green show.
Aw.
And Gary Hodges has joined us. Hiya, Gary.
Yeah.
So Canadiana stuff. Do you think that all this Canadian comedy I grew up watching has affected my creative sensibilities?
For the better or for the worse?
I don't know. Marguerite is also referring to the Trailer Park Boys. I don't think you've ever watched the Trailer
No.
Park Boys.
No.
Geez, that's a big mistake, eh? Again, massive stereotype of guys from the coast.
Yeah.
Yeah, and but they do have a love of cats on that show, Lori. And we do love our cats. We're getting a little fed up with the cats right now. We had a Zoom conversation this morning with somebody, and in the course of our Zoom conversation, that's the moment that the cats decide to have World War III. And
Full brawl.
full brawl. Where is it? At our feet. Perfect timing. Before I forget, there's the thing that I always request, and that is if anybody has one-page story ideas or word prompts that they want to throw at me or anything like that, always feel free to put it in the chat or put it in the comments on the video or put it in the comments of any of the posts that I've done on Instagram or Facebook. Yeah, I've been trying to be more diligent. I did today. I did a reel.
Okay.
Very exciting. Very exciting. Very dramatic. It's a minute long. it's just recording the painting that I just finished for our one of our big patrons
good.
there.
That's good that you did that.
Yeah, so I posted that up, and then in that reel I also said that hey, big wow, Lori's going to be on the stream today. So
you told me that if I jot down different anecdotes about my dad, that you would do something.
oh yeah,
So I thought I would just share the one that prompted you to tell me that you would do that.
oh yeah, go for it.
So, this is like
Sorry.
this is like 1980. So I come from a family with 4 kids, and every Sunday morning we would faithfully go to church. The night before, my dad would announce the bus leaves at 9:25. So at that time I'm like 9, and then my sisters are 14 and 11, and my brother's 4 or 5. And so it's a whole thing to get everybody out the door on time.
It's the way you described it, because of your Dutch dad,
Yes.
that he just declared it from
Yeah,
one
it's
room.
a- it
The
was
bus leaves at 9:45.
It was an
It's
announcement,
so good.
and there was no
Sorry for yelling.
there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So we would all get into the car for 9:25.
9:25. I said the wrong
At
time.
varying, stages of readiness. So my one sister would have to sit. So first of all, we had a car that was not big enough for our family. So thankfully, my brother was small enough that he stood in front of me over the hump.
This is the 1970s where the hump was a real part of the vehicle then, and standing over the hump was technically a car seat.
We went from a 10-passenger van to a small compact car because the gas prices were going through the roof, and my dad was like, that's it, I'm not spending that much money on gas, so I'm going to buy a vehicle that doesn't fit the entire family.
Well, anybody stateside will understand that because they had that massive gas shortage
There you go.
in the 70s where they had people lined up forever.
Yeah.
We didn't have that here because there's like 25 of us compared to the States.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, yeah, like my sister would be doing her makeup looking in the rearview mirror behind my dad. I'd be smushed in the middle with my brother standing in front of me. And then my other sister would just be upset because her hair didn't go right. And then my mom, she was usually not happy with her hair either. But we were all there and we all got to church on time. But it was
9:25.
It was
Lori.
intense.
I just picture your dad having to pull up to an intersection and the slight lurch of the vehicle and Jen going behind your dad and you having to grab a hold of John so he doesn't go flying.
Yes.
Bearing in mind, folks, John, the youngest, is deafblind.
Yes.
And so, he's...
And he was small for his age, so that it did kind of work.
It did, but he's got no idea where he is in that moment.
Cause back then they didn't know he needed hearing aids until he was 6 or 7 years old.
Yeah.
And glasses didn't come until he was 5. So those early years he couldn't see or hear anything.
Those that have been watching the stream for a while know that I love everybody that's been on the stream. I really do, and I especially love when Lori's on the stream. But John is still my favorite guest because he tells me what to do the whole time, like the entire time. All right, Christopher, time to draw. What do you want me to draw, John? Draw this. He's just so very specific.
Yeah.
Miriam says it's so funny. My father used to yell, "To the car!" It's like Batman to the Batcave. While he was still in bed or whatever. He knew how much time will take to get us with her mom, her 2 other sisters, and her grandma. He knew how much time it would take him to get ready. He wasn't even out of bed and he's shouting to the car.
Oh, that's hilarious.
See, I remember walking to church with my mom, and she would have the 3 of us in tow. And all I remember is because we would go around this park behind our house, the back street right to the church, Hamilton Road there. And so it would be, my brother was not entirely awake as soon as we're leaving. So she would carry him the first tiny little bit, and he'd go, "Dad, Thomas, you have to walk." And so he would be, at the back. And we looked like the kids from... Peter Pan, the Walt Disney movie, from the 60s. And so, there I am, distracted, possibly reading a book as I'm walking. Or, just looking at whatever, never where I'm going. And my sister complaining to the ends of the earth, no matter where she was in the order of walking.
Yeah.
And my mother just trying her best. And it looked like a scene out of nature where you've got the mother goose herding the ducklings across the road.
Yeah.
So, it was far less dramatic.
Yeah.
But, and we were in whatever stated dress she could get us in.
Yeah.
I often had the sweater, the pullover sweater on the dress shirt, where the sweater was this much of, I don't know if you can see this, but this much of this, I was covered to the sweater down to here. And I could care less, because kids are redonkulous. Well, I didn't, just, it's cold. Well, it's because your belly's not covered.
So I'll have to think of more of those sort of snapshots that are classic Dad.
It's that project for us to work on, but we've also talked about doing another project. For those that, okay, so when it comes to, I'm very clearly ever present, ever visible when it comes to what I'm doing. It's very externalized. Pictures and paintings, whatever else, right? And but you take photographs that I've admitted before that I'm envious of. Your propensity for just going, oh, that's nice, and then having a perfectly oriented photograph that, you know, follows the golden triangle, follows the rules of thirds, the whole. I don't know if you're even looking when you take them. And she'll go for a walk behind our house. There's a nice park area, and so she'll go for a walk there. Miriam's giving me a big warm hug. And she'll go, oh, I took some pictures. And it's like, oh, come on. Every one of these things with light moving through branches, and you're like, yeah, you know, and some people have natural propensities for things, right? And then, but what I didn't know for years of us being married was your journaling. Not that.
No.
Lori's on the hot seat. So, I got to read the journals, the little journal books that Lori wrote when she was 9, 10, 11 years old.
Those were turbulent years.
Any men, and there's differences between men and women. There's never anything so clear as for you to understand that. For a man to read the diary of a teenage girl, because it's a terrifying nightmare of wish-washy emotions, love-hate relationships on a daily,
a lot of love and hate.
Daily basis. I'm going to Brownies with so-and-so. She better not tease me about my pigtails. You know, so-and-so said something mean about my pigtails at Brownies. But then she gave me some cookies, and so we're best friends again. It's like, how do you...
Better believe it.
Hatred, the planned manslaughter leading to joy from cookies.
Yeah, there's
Within
no in between.
It's one of those things that boys don't write notes like that.
Mm-hmm.
We're either writing fantastical adventures about some, you know, swashbuckling guy who's on Mars fighting 8-armed aliens and 4-armed aliens. Sorry for Grace Pearls fans. And yeah, see, specificity is important to me, Miriam. I referenced the book and it had to correct how many arms the aliens had, and you know, the escapes into fantasy or basic blunt points, you know, is what boys would write back then, unless, you know, they're exception to the rule. And but I think that the realization, because we discovered these, we talked and we read through these. At the same time, Nicole was still home, and Nicole's like, "What? That's why we write our books." Like, it was so confirmed by her.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Yeah, she confirmed that. Well, she wouldn't share hers, but she confirmed that what? We're just writing our feelings. Like I was, you know, ridiculous that I didn't understand it.
Well, yeah, because when you're given a diary, it's like you're given complete freedom to just write your innermost thoughts and feelings. You're confiding to your diary. So
Mariah says that is so true about guys not getting it. She's still trying to explain it to her husband. That's awesome. The confiding of feelings. I didn't realize. I'm very lucky. I'm very blessed because Lori very nearly married into the snowmobile magnate family of St. Thomas, Ontario. Is that not, you had a crush on the boy that's family sells the snowmobiles? That's what they do now? We've driven by their place?
But I don't.
The guy, when we turn at Wellington Road onto on McNeil Drive,
Yeah.
and there's that snowmobile place, and you had a crush on that boy when you were in grade school. His family owns that.
No, you're mixing up my stories.
I am doing a really terrible job.
You're combining stories, but that makes it much more interesting.
Well, which one were you to be married to?
I was pointing out around the corner from where my cousin lives. That's where, and that's just a house.
Well, what
That's
about the
where
snowmobile guy?
I have no recollection of the snowmobile guy.
Well, it was a good story.
But yeah, my dad would take us on the snowmobile, and he put my my sister's in the caboose, and I would ride behind him or in front of him, and I would look back every once in a while. And one time, like, we left, that completely got disconnected, so my sisters were just sitting in the caboose in the middle of the field.
Mariah says that's a good add-on to the story. And Miriam wished good luck to her explaining things to her husband. Oh, Chris is cooking lunch. Chris has just joined back with us. Hiya. Yeah, so there's this ripe ground for all these fantastic stories of, and we've talked about this. We've even roughed it out on paper. Some of the adventures that were in your notepad about so and so at school and you were best friends with, and then she does something to upset you, so now you're best friends with such and such. It's this constant, like, this is the whole thing about story, right? Is that it's this constant ground of exchangeable social dynamics that happens between these characters. And when you watch these soap operas and you watch these shows, like, I guess, I don't know. See, I'm old, so I think 90210, and there's probably 50 different kinds of shows like that since. But that whole such and such is interested in so and so at school, and such is, going on vacation with their dad on a fishing trip, and he didn't tell his girlfriend, and now she's worried that he's off with somebody else. Like, just stupid. The ridiculous, constant changing, rotating who loves and who hates who on a show. And
who belongs to who. I think, like, that's
the possessive.
You're wanting to kind of own that friend. They're like, that's my friend. That's kind of my mentality.
What did I miss? Didi is going to message. I'm sorry, Didi, what did I miss? It says, I will just message her. I'm not sure what the first half of that is, Didi, and it doesn't appear in the stream. Mariah says, I'm with you, Lori. Classic. She breathed 90210. Probably messed with my teenage brain for sure. Well, I think we were in our 20s when that came out. Were we not? Yeah. And it's a ridiculous show. It was
looking back at it.
Well, no, I thought it was ridiculous at the time. But then again, that's guy brain, girl brain, right? Like, the difference of the two is that I looked at that and went, I don't get it.
No, you wouldn't.
And the one guy that I thought that was cool on that show, that I made the mistake of asking Lori recently, whatever happened to that guy? Like, his career was going pretty good, and he just disappeared. Because I didn't know he passed away. And it's like, I posted 4 times, Didi says. I'm so sorry. Why am I not Gary, Linda, Mariah? I'm not seeing it, Didi. I'm so sorry. She said we love Lori.
Aww.
Yeah.
That's too bad we missed it.
It's not working. So Didi and Lori have referred books to each other, and
the referred series.
Yeah, and are both enjoying those.
Yeah,
it's kind of fun. Miriam says we had a Puget 404 with a slide roof, and we used to claim and sit with our feet on the. We used to claim and sit on the roof with their feet inside, with their dad driving around the parking lot. There's no way that could happen today.
You had a cool dad.
It's a cool dad, yeah. And Marguerite's daughters loved 90210. Loved that 90210. Luke Perry, Mariah's reminding us. Luke Perry.
Yes, Dylan.
Is that?
That was his name on the show.
Oh, okay. Okay. It's the Canadian kid that.
Jason Priestley.
That he's still in all kinds of Canadian.
Maybe he was Dylan. No, he was Brandon. Yeah.
Da 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 da. That's all I remember. That was my cue to leave the room. Do I have all messages?
Well, I'm cramping your regular content about art.
Just want to see if I can pick up. I don't know. I think it's a. It didn't send through, Dee Dee. I have it. I have that on, and it just didn't come through for some reason. I am so apologetic for that. She even put it in caps. Oh, Mariah says Brandon, Brenda's brother.
Yeah.
I love alliteration, by the way.
Brandon and Brenda.
Brandon is Brenda's brother. And Brenda is Brandon's sister. Doesn't work. Alliteration's king. It's not showing in the chats. It's got to be a glitch, Dee Dee, and I'm so sorry for that. YouTube is making me crazy. I love you, YouTube. That's why I wrote it in today's captions for the episode that we love you, YouTube, just so I wouldn't have the nightmare that I had yesterday of my signal stinking. Yeah. And but now it's glitching out, and I'm not getting Dee Dee's insights, and that's too bad because we like Dee Dee. Yeah, I'm sorry for that, guys. Yeah. So, anything you want to say before any sort of parting pearls of wisdom? Parting pearls of wisdom.
No, but just thank you so much for being a part of Christopher's community. It's been fantastic to see the growth and development over the past year. Like, we wouldn't have thought that it would grow to something like this.
No, I thought it was too weird. I thought I perpetually have 26 people following me. 26 people's good. I'm good with that.
Yeah.
So every time we pass a platform, yeah, you saw me say I posted 4 times. Oh, I've got those ones. I actually said all the ones that I got from you, Dee Dee, but there's clearly a chunk of space that there, like it's back to where you're saying hi to people, and then there's a chunk of space, and then you came back. So I don't know, but we can all see you. Dee Dee says, "Can anyone see me? If not, I'm just gonna leave." LOL. That's what she said. There are gremlins working the YT now, but not earlier. There we go. And now Chris is inviting us for lunch, I think. I don't know if I'm getting half the stuff. It's kind of YouTube stinks this week. But there's all kinds of...
It's Friday. It's tired.
Okay. All right. Well, YouTube is tired.
It needs a break.
All right. Well, thank you for coming and joining me today, Lori. It's really excited when you come in and when you share the books that you read, just because it's always interesting to new things to come across.
It's very funny shopping for books with you.
Why?
Because you are just going to the library. Because in a flash, you're beside me with the biggest books, I'm sure, in the whole place. And you've got, your armful, and I'm humming and hawing over one book. Oh, I don't know.
I usually got 5 or 6 at that point. Well, I see what I like and I get out of there. It's the difference of, again, man brain, woman brain.
Yeah.
Just get the books or get out.
That's
You'll read them when you get home. But that also leads to me going, I don't know why I bought this. And you never do that.
No.
Right? So it's,
Yeah.
It's a give and take. The earlier messenger. In a minute, we'll have it here. Everybody's invited to a keto meal at Miriam's. We just have to get over to Israel in a blink of an eye.
Okay.
They're doing things that are YouTube is doing things that are causing things. It's a very technical analysis of what. That's Mariah saying that. All right. Well,
All
brilliant.
right.
Thank you. Thanks
Okay.
for coming, Lori, and thanks everybody for being so welcoming
Yes,
to
thank
Lori
you so
joining me.
much.
All right. I'm going to switch over to there's today's page for those that came in late. This is the page that I did from Dee Dee's suggestion of the origin of where giraffes come from. Where the giraffes originate, the underworld. So, there we go. Thank you very much for the suggestion, Dee Dee. Now, today's page. I wrote it at the top of the comments at the beginning. As it's one of my favorite things when Lori comes and joins. Thanks everybody for being so nice and so welcoming for her. She thinks everybody here is great. Today's suggestion is a long one. It is a sellsword. I had to look that up. It's a person that sells their fighting skills for money. A bard, gling gling gling, and a damsel walk into a tavern. They sit at a table and are joined by a wizard. So, that's today's suggestion. And so I've got some paper here in the old Kamarooski. I'm just going to move it over. There we go. So I've got a small sheet on top. So my thoughts were on this to do it as I like the idea of everybody coming into the bar, like everybody walking into the tavern, feet out. Somebody's got his arm, he's holding his lute. Is it a lute? The little guitar with the round shape to it? A bard singing like in The Witcher? Yeah, there you go. Oh, Mariah. Or no, that's Chris. Chris is off on her Henry Cavill. Oh boy, goodness. He's a beefcake. So here's our first guy strutting through. So there's our bard. And I've got his 1 foot forward and his 1 foot back. And then I've got a damsel. And I can have her with her arms, up front like this. So that because she's going into a den of inequity. And so there's our damsel character, and we'll have her foot moving forward as she's walking into the room, and we can have her dress flow out a little bit, and we can have some bangles and whatnot on the bard's outfit. And then I thought in behind, with a big crazy hat, I would do the sellsword. And I like the idea, I was thinking about this, of the guy who's got this mustache. He's the charming rogue. That's the only thing that has come to mind for me about the idea of designing this character. Let's see what while they're here. Later, are you heading out or later to DDD? I'm in Marion. Perfect Mariah. A bard. Singing like in The Witcher. The second best Superman. I was 7 when I fell in love with Christopher Reeve. Oh, there you go. I still think that. See, I really love George Reeves' Superman for the time and for the perspective, the world perspective. Henry Cavill was a pretty good Superman, like you're saying, but Chris Reeves' Superman, I think, is so. That's the icon. That's the tone of Superman. You're hard pressed to say who the best Batman would be, but clearly a lot of people still think it's Michael Keaton, and even the old version of Michael Keaton that showed up in the Flash movie that nobody watched. But yeah, Chris Reeves' Superman is pretty epic. I think Henry Cavill did pretty good, all things considered. I think he's not my second favorite, though, because Chris Reeves would be my favorite, and then Brendan Routh, the guy that did Superman Returns, that guy is my second favorite. Because he completely captured the Christopher Reeve spirit, and I do not know for the life of me why they didn't continue him as Superman, because he was great. So, and now he's Superman on a TV show of some kind. I don't know. I don't watch all those. Okay, so anyways, here's my idea of your roguish sword fighter, and he's gonna have the big ornate hat with the plumage, and so I thought I would have him walking in behind, holding onto his sword, which is behind the others. But I thought that this would be the interesting opening part of the page, and then I thought maybe 3 small panels to the side, one featuring each of them, and then I would open it up to, they sit down at the table. See if I'm missing stuff. They would sit down at the table, and as they're at the table and they're setting down their gear, I thought what I would have is a split panel here where they're sitting to the table, and then suddenly comes over somebody who's carrying a whole bunch of, are you ready for this? Flagons of mead. Yeah, I'm in the know. I'm in the know with this sort of sword and sorcery stuff. My one son loves it. So somebody shows up with the flagons of mead, and so the suggestion says a damsel, a bard, and a sellsword go into a tavern, and they sit at a table and are joined by a wizard. And so what I thought I would have is an IT guy sit down, and of course the joke is that he's well, I'm a wizard with computers. That's my theory. That's a ridiculous idea. So I'd have the whole pushing up the glasses stereotype. Actually, I'm a wizard with computers. So I thought I would break the page up so that it would have a little bit of interest in that way. And so the rough shape of these panels is, of course, not the way I'm going to lay them out. I like the idea of panels stepping over top of panels, or panels embedded in panels. So if I have the three characters here as they're walking into the place, and the light coming from behind, and of course characters that are all looking at them from their chairs and so forth, and their best foot forward would peek down into the space below the panel. I guess his wouldn't, because he's a little bit back, but hers would. And so that way it just sort of breaks that wall. But in this space to the side, within the context of this image with these different characters here, is where I thought I would put the smaller panels of their heads. And so when I break it down like this, with this very too much information, why are you telling us the end? Because I still are going to change it up, Miriam. But when I break it down initially in my head like this part here of floating panels inside of a composition, it takes up the top third of a page. This is the part, and I'm leaving space, of course, for the text or the title or whatever it is. This is the experimental part that gives us so much of the enthusiasm, the joy, that as we work, we're challenging ourselves in those regards. It's one thing to have the conception point, or to work out a rough layout from a script or something like that, but then going to this extent, that shakes it up a lot. Oh, I drew on over here too. Good job. I'm just swinging for the fences right now. So I thought I'm going to take you through a process that some people use. Now, this is a sheet of lined blue line paper. You can't really see the blue lines because they're so faint, but it's a gridded page that looks like this, where it has markings at the thirds, and it has markings at the half points. So you can divide a page like so, or it has, again, here's the thirds, inside, and the same at the bottom, so that you can divide the page into 9. So now you've got 9 panels this way of equal size, and you've got far more space for you to tell a story with. The 9-panel grid is a grid that was used for a long time, but then you also have the option of doing 4 panels like so, or you can do 2 large and long, or 3 long panels, but the point is that gridding at the sides of these pre-lined pages allows you to have some squaring options of connection points for the rulers to meet up, the ruled lines to meet up across your page, so that it gives you all kinds of interesting choices in a geometric grid. So but rather than working right on that page, I thought I'd do this. This one thing that a lot of people do, and you'll find it with artists like, well, I'm going to use Brian Hitch as an example. Brian Hitch is a fantastic illustrator. He is a very realistic illustrator, and it was his 2 volumes of a comic series called The Ultimates that is responsible for the entire Marvel Universe franchise of films, because those Avenger movies that came out are based on the Ultimates comics. It was Brian Hitch that drew Samuel L. Jackson as the Nicholas Fury the Nicholas Fury character, because up until that point in comics, Nicholas Fury is an old, grizzled World War II white guy smoking cigars with an eye patch. and then Sam Jackson was used as the visual reference by Brian Hitch for his version of Nicholas Fury, because he wanted to shake it up. So, and it was a retelling of it, so there you go. Now I've got this breakdown, this idea. So what I've got is these 11 by 17 sheets of paper, okay, and there's only another 3 inches at the bottom outside of frame and an inch at the top outside of frame that you can't see. So I can pull the camera back. It's not going to be as in focus, but we'll bring it out just for you. So here's the space of the page, and so when I've got this rough layout idea, like I've scribbled down for you, one of the things that a lot of creators will do is that they'll find the spacing on their page, and they'll do it in this really loose and really rough way. And this is just for this section, okay? I'm going to pull in just so you can see more clearly the marks that I'm making, all right? Because I don't want you to miss out, but I just want to show you the scale in reference to the entirety of the page. So if we've got this guy who's walking along and he's holding his lute that's, over, I think it's called a lute, that's over his shoulder, okay? And so here's this guy, and we've got his hand in front of him. And so as we draw this character, still making sure I'm in camera, and we move there's his knee, and as we move his foot into the frame so that you see him walking and with some flaring in his pant leg, and then as his second pant comes in behind him, see the tip of his toe from his other leg, so we know he's walking forwards towards the camera. And then you can put the ephemera on him. But what it gives you is this really loose approach to the penciling process. A lot of these guys, Chris has got to go, so another chores to finish at home. See you around. Take care, Chris. Thanks very much. So a lot of the comic illustrators that are roughing out pages, they'll do it this loosely, or they'll take a piece of 8.5 by 11 that's divided into 4, and I've shown you these before because I have a sketchbook of these, and it's divided into 4 like so, with some text, some lines for text at the bottom for descriptions, and they will break this up however they need to break it up and roughly design their pages like so. They'll loosely design it like I just did here, right? And then they'll take this and they'll move to this stage, and so now they're trying to reinterpret this rough drawing here. Hello to all the Chris's and everyone else on board. Just drop by and say, and hope you all have a great day. Thanks, Jim. Good to see you, buddy. Hey, I'll send you a message this weekend. So we draw in our characters like so, and we'll give him a jacket tied around his waist, and we'll put the knot there. Just, I don't know why. Maybe a bard carries everything with him. Who knows? So here's this character, and then, so this is the reason that this is done like this is so that you can make sure that you get characters to scale in relationship with one another. And so here's our damsel in distress, and we'll put, as she's looking around the room, so we'll turn her head to the side, like so, and then we'll have her wearing damsel's maiden outfit with I don't know what you call it. It's like a pleating in the dress, and we can give the ripped outfit like she was attacked, by being picked up and carried around by a dragon, I guess. I don't know the larger story here, but we'll have her walking into the room as well, and so we're laying her out to scale with him, so that when we think about the placement of her legs, and that her toes coming forward here as she's moving, but her gait is her own, very different than his. So as she's walking, her one foot sits in front of the other, whereas he sort of has a bit of a swagger to him. Do you like this? This is swagger, folks. You are the wizard now. Thanks, Mary. Look at him, children. Oh, no, I'm thinking of Doug Henning. So here are her hands crossed over in order to represent some kind of, covering a self or ideal of purity or self-protection in a hostile environment. I try to think about the characters like that and contextualize ways that they wear their clothing. Like, you can sort of get so much character expressed in how a person walks, or how a person dresses themselves, or how they move in response to things. So what their the resting facial expression is, by having the cavalier type sellsword, I guess he's called, with this whole sort of Guy Fawkes kind of a look, sort of expresses immediately he's this really competent swordsman, but at the same time he's probably got some degree of flair to him, and then we represent that by giving him this garish hat, that like the Puss in Boots character from the Pixar films. He's got a fantastically garish hat and overconfident persona, and so we'll give him the feathers and as they come out from his hat. And again, it's just the sort of rough representations at this point, because we're not overly defining everything. We're trying to place it in really loosely. And so the second part of it with this character, is that I would have his hand resting here clearly between these two characters, because we want to identifiably define them. She's the damsel in the dress. She's the the maiden who's been rescued, so we can have her outfit a little frayed at the bottom and a little singed, as though she's been kept in a as though she's been kept in a castle and guarded by a dragon. And so this is the sellsword and his bard bringing her back to the tavern as they're taking her on her way home to the magic castle kingdom. The Mariah says the question is, how many pieces of flair is he wearing? There should be at least 9. That is a great Office Space reference. That's, if you haven't seen that film, you got to watch it. Excellent, Mariah. I'm really pleased. You got to have flair. Anyways, so here's his sword as he's holding the handle of his sword, so that we can clearly, identifiably see this representation of what he represents. And then as we see the butt end of the sword sticking out to the side here. So now we've got this directional movement, and so we need a responsiveness to it, which is why I was thinking we put a little bit of his jacket or whatever it is tied around his waist, so that we can flare it out to the side here, one moving to the left in accordance to how they move to the right. And if we've got beads or whatnot hanging off of the end of his merce, or the man bag, or whatever you want to call it, and then this way, we're identifiably making clear definitions on these characters. So he would have a a fancy shirt, and then this guy's our macho type. And so it's also important that when drawing these guys, in representing the different ways that they walk, sorry, I shifted the page there. So in representing the different ways that they walk, we need to have some sort of clear identifier that says they move very differently from one another. And so by having his sort of kicking his feet forward and with his head tilted a little bit to the side and his one hand coming up as his other hand's over his shoulder, gives this sort of swagger. Her walking very demurely identifies her. And then our swordsman coming up behind is going to have prepared for action at all times. So there's going to be a sort of spreading of the direction of the feet so that his one foot is stepping forward but with an angle to the left, and then his other one would be to the right because he's ready to move either way. And then of course we're going to make sure that he has, let's do 9 pieces of flair right now. We'll give him a fancy cravat type thing, and we can give him some little buttons hanging off of the jacket, or what do you call that, like the Beatles things where it's a little loop of string that goes around a button but is clearly evident that it's doing so. So we'll give him a little bit of that, and we'll give him a couple of belts that are in different positions, one here and one in front of it, so that one holds up his sword, one doesn't. So these are all the things that go through my head as I'm illustrating. We got the hat, we got there, so where are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4. We got the mustache, the smiley face, the little goat. So there's 5. A Sgt. Pepper's type look. Thank you, Mariah. I think that was Jennifer A's first movie. Is that right? Office Space? That's interesting. Man, some of the guys are in that are so funny. The guy who listens to the hip hop in his car, and then as the African American gentleman comes up to ask him for some change, he turns it right down and just looks off to the side like, "Oh hum, I wasn't listening to rap music." Like there's some reason he can't, that guy was on Mad TV before that. He's the one that looks like Alfred E. Newman from the magazines. Anyways, so I'm trying to, there's 6 we got with the sword, and then we can have we can put a little bit of tails on his outfit that are sort of sweeping out beside him. So as the 3 of these, so what are we at? 5. What are we at? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Fancy boots. 8. Number 9. What do we got for 9, people? Jim says it was that or Leprechaun 2. Yeah, that's right. She was in that. That's exactly right, Jim. Thank you. Oh, that's so good. That's so good. But I think Jennifer Anderson's first film was Mac and Me. Okay, so I believe you have my stapler. I could burn this whole place to the ground. You don't even know. There's a fantastic. So those Mike Judge, who directed Office Space, he is a fantastic animator, and as an animator, he did these amazing like cartoon bits, and he would do ones featuring that character of I believe you have my stapler. Red. It's red. I purchased that personally. So it does belong to the company. Like, just such a great character. Apricot Cravat is a apricot cravat. If I start a new band, which I haven't done since I was in my teens, but if I start a new band, Marguerite, you just came up with the name for the band. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we're Apricot Cravat. Yeah, so good. Epaulettes, swing line. So good. Swingline, was that the name of the cartoon? Oh, so good. Anyhow, we've got all of his films, his live action films. There's I'm trying to think of what. There's one about a fudge company starring Michael from Arrested Development, Jason Bateman, who got his start on Little House on the Prairie. So did Shannon Doherty. Brenda from 90,210. Stapler was a red swing line stapler. So good. Extract is the film with Jason Bateman. And there's a third that we have. I'm trying to remember what that one was. Medals. Oh, he needs medals. Thank you, Marguerite. That's perfect. We'll put some fancy little garish things here on him. So the only other thing I could think of was they're coming in to have the one hand here, and for him to adjust the shoulder line so that his second, and I would switch the flourish to the other side. This is just an immediate idea. And so we would switch the flourish to the other side so that as he's coming in, we'd have his hand raised as though he's about to take off his hat. And in that way, as he's walking in, it's about to go, ladies, So it all comes back to 90210, or 90,210, as I like to say it. There's three things that happen around the same time. 90210 was a television show on I don't know what channel, cable, and OU 812 was an album by Van Halen, and Owner of a Lonely Heart. That album came out at the same time, and I can't remember, but that's a numerical title for that album. Jeez. The movie is called Extract, and it is fantastic. There's a funny joke in that about how she desperately tries to get home because he misses just spending time with his wife, and he has to get home before she's put on her jogging pants. And every time Dave Ketchner, hello there, pal, Dave Ketchner always gets in the way. Every time he's like, okie doke, if you don't mind. I love that actor. Anyways, so this would be where we've got we'll have a big guy leaning against the bar, and his feet under a table. Is that in frame? Yep. And so we'll put the stool beneath him, and then here he is leaning there, and we can have him with a big sword over his tucked up behind him. What would be funny is in the corner, instead of a television, would be in the corner we could have somebody doing a puppet show. These are the things that come to my mind that make me happy, and other people go, why would you waste time doing that? So instead of him sitting at the bar watching TV, he can sit at the bar and watch a puppet show being performed in the corner. So then we'll have another character here who's largely silhouette, and then we'll have a table full of rapscallions that, and we'll have one of them turned so that he's looking at them as they come in. Just to populate the room and make things a little more interesting in the environment around them. And we'll move his other foot forward, and we'll give him a stool he's sitting on. Everybody gets a stool. What are we missing? Punchinello. There you go. Punchinello play. That's exactly what it is. There's little diversion, just for a quick second. I want to show you something. This is another book by Neil Gaiman and Dave McKeon, and this is another book that I have a couple different versions of, but this is a brilliant book called The Comical Tragedy, or Tragical Comedy, of Mr. Punch, and it's mixed media. You can see all of the collage work he's done of photographic images in the cover with the puppet made for the book, and this is all Dave McKeon's work. He's a brilliant, an absolutely brilliant mixed media artist, and if you're not familiar with him, Dave McKean, UB40. Oh yeah, UB40 Red Volume at the same time. Thank you so much, Marguerite. That's perfect. 90812. 90812 is the Yes album. that has owner of a lonely heart. Nothing better than owner of a broken heart. So this is the mixed media stuff of Dave McKeon. So it's half photograph, half paint, half digital application, the text after the fact. But he made the puppets. So this is his telling. And then there's photo insertions as well, photo collage, and of course all these digital elements for the type. But in comics, this is my favorite artist. So here he's got real photographs that he's painted the character in the little Punchinello tent in over top, and then this is half photo collage of these puppets that he's made, as well as the painted elements and the spreading of the paint on the surface, but then he's put the text in digitally. So this is an absolutely brilliant example, and it tells a Punchinello tale, but it also refers it to something that's going on in this kid's world. So, but then he moves into different types of incorporated elements here, overlays, and so he would do a thing where he would do a cover where he creates a collage of three-dimensional objects, and it would be like a 3 foot by 5 foot space of the area, and he's got a camera set up to take a picture of it, but before he does, he has a projector that's projecting a slide over top of it, and so it changes the dimensions of the form, and then he would take a photo of that. So this is a guy who's an absolute master of different applications of things. There's a big crazy man face that he's made that somebody's actually wearing as the judge. So it's so good, and I mean, I've shown some Dave McKeon work before, and but the Punch and Judy play, the Punchinello play here that is being performed, and in this book, and how it has real world consequences in relationship to his grandfather and his grandfather's past. It's such an interesting book. Please look up Dave McKeon's work. The ISBN for this is 6194-120656. And I mean, it's just, his work is an absolute treat. I'll show you something else. I have an entire shelf of Dave. Actually, I just realized I have a shelf and a half of Dave McKeon's books, his publications. He teaches in England at the London School of Art. This is Crime and Punishment by Dostoevsky, as best I could. And like my wife says, it's as thick as all get out. But this is Crime and Punishment, illustrated by Dave McKeon. So this is the box that it came in that I'll never get rid of. And inside is just still a gigantic book, but eyeballs. The work that he does is so good that it never stops amazing me. So these are all his illustrations for Crime and Punishment, and this is a complete printing of the book with spot illustrations by McKeon throughout. So it's really interesting stuff, and how he incorporates different elements. Like this is a digital overlay on a sketched drawing. Oops, I'm sorry. This is a digital overlay of a sketch on a sketched image. So he's taken that, and that's on a different, he's scanned that, he's turned it into sepia tone, and he's overlaid it on top of this. You know, and then he's got these little elements that are down here around her hand. This is another different layer of application. So all of his stuff is like this, where he just tries everything out under the sun, and which is partially the inspiration for me to do that. And then there's this book, and this is Cages. Now I'm going to tell you the ISBN for this right up front. 1-56163-319-4. the quote here is mesmerizing from Terry Gilliam, the animator from Monty Python. So, Cages by Neil Gaiman. And so this book starts off with 6 different versions, 6, maybe I think it might be 4 different versions of the creation myth, or the tale of creation, and different mythologies, and there's a biblical version here, but there's the African myth of the birth of creation. And so stylistically, the approach to it is vastly different one from the next. This might be my favorite one, which is, in the beginning God created the world because he could. He created its landscapes, its waters, its skies, and its life, made it his home. And then lines like, time, a leaf carried in the fingertips of a breeze, past. But there's a completely different approach to this version. He's got a piece of the Sistine Chapel in here. So then he gets into the book, and the book is phenomenal. This is one of the best openings of a comic story ever, for anybody that's slept. Chapter 1, Descent. The moon, a cat, the body of the cat, the tail of the cat. If that doesn't show you at the transition of time, I don't know what else could illustrate that any more clearly. In 4 panels on a single page with the most simplistic image you could think of, he's managed to show us a cat walking across a roof. So, Making It with Minglet has joined. Hiya, welcome aboard. So then we go to this shot where it shows us the cat in front of the moon at the top of this big Victorian building, which is where our stories all take place. Cat looking this way, cat looking that way, cat getting down. So the amount of characterization and the importance of this cat that walks through our entire story is phenomenal. And then we get to experience the cat walking down the fire escape, walking past the windows of all the characters. And as the cat does walk by each window, it introduces all of the characters in the building to us, which is the cast of the story. So, here he is on the next page. There's a Rasta guy playing his flute recorder. I don't know what it is, but there's little musical notes in the blue value just above his head, in case you can't see it. Yo, Mr. Cat, and how are you this fine night? So he writes him with a patois, right? You really are the doziest great supine I ever see, Hey, Mr. Cat. Nothing wrong with that now. I love that. Anyways, so the cat's rolling around the ground. He tries to get the cat to play the flute. Oh, it's a shakuhachi. That's what it's called. And then the cat continues on his way. Stares at a bird, moves along, and then the transition changes as we go into these different characters in these different rooms and the different life experiences that they have. And all the way down to the bottom where someone's having all of his paintings reclaimed in his gallery. It's just, there's so much interesting stuff going on in this book. And then every now and then, let's see if I can find one for you, he transitions out occasionally into this secondary style when someone is telling a flashback story. And he transitions into this. So, this is Dave McKean's Cages. So there's an artist I would recommend people checking out. I don't know how I got onto him. Oh, Punchinello. That's how I got onto him. So yeah, so we'll put a Punchinello play in the corner, and that's our joke, just between us. Don't tell anybody. About, instead of guys at a bar watching TV, they're watching a Punchinello play. So, and then we'll have some characters here. Now, the way that I'll initially lay out a page when you're roughing in the whole of the composition, and I'll pull the camera back so you can see what I'm referring to for scale. So because this is the down to the halfway mark on the page, but we're going to cut our panel up inside that and leave a free floating image that'll be underneath. You'll see what I mean in a sec. But I'll draw in the other characters roughly into the composition, even though I know full well that these characters are, and we can even do little cheeky things for ourselves, like have him cheating under the table. He's got an ace in his hand here that they don't know, but we know because we get to see the whole scene. Stacy May's joining us. Hi, Stacy. So there's our second part of our layout, and then we can have a couple of people just standing around chatting. And the reason that I'll do this, and I'll lay the entire thing out in my head, and then in the foreground here, we can introduce the back and the back of the head of another guy, so that they're sitting there's, and we'll have somebody sitting here. So it just gives more depth to the environment. And the reason that I'll lay all of these elements out as I'm roughing out a page is so that, you know, when we put the little panels that sit over top, we ourselves have the facility to choose wherever we want them to go, because we've got the entirety of this composition laid in. And so we can pick and choose where we place these overlapping panels that I described here. And so with that in mind, it allows us, so here's our characters. We'll introduce Smiley, Magoo with his mustachio and his chin whiskers, and then we'll introduce the maiden right here. She's looking concerned, and it doesn't matter that we're covering up some of this stuff behind. Then we'll have her looking down because she's just been rescued from a dragon and she's a little worn out, and so we'll have her looking down towards the floor. And then our third image here is where we'll have our bard who's shouting something to somebody over there. Hey, give me some pizza. I don't know what he's saying, but so we're introducing our three characters, and what this does is that we can have slightly different expressions or slightly different actions or movements, which just further enhances the fact of the character we're trying to define. Stacy says, was engrossed in the cat thing. That was amazing. Yeah, I'll show you it again. It's Cages by Dave McKeon, and there's single editions of each of these books that you can find. But that's from Cages number 1, and that's 1992. So all of these are collected in one, and the ISBN is 156163-319-4. But there's Dave McKeon. Look him up online. He is a wealth and a body of work. Those Proco guys on their stream, when they were talking about AI and how it's going to offer all kinds of interesting things for us to do as artists, they actually took Dave McKeon's work and had AI generate a Dave McKeon version of their Draftsman Show title card. And I'm not going to watch them ever again for that because you took another artist's work and used it to add into the algorithm so the algorithm can do whatever it wants with Dave McKeon stuff. I don't understand why they did it, but you sketch fast, says Minglet. Oh, you betcha. I do a page a day, and in case you're just joining, this is yesterday's page. So this is the suggestion from Dee Dee about giraffes come from the underworld. So it's on Instagram and Facebook. Please, by all means, I post every page every day on there. So today's suggestion, and so I work from suggestions as well, Minglet. And if you, I don't know what your real name is. Stacy? Is it Stacy? No, that's Stacy May. I'm not sure what I'm just going to say Minglet. So if people suggest an idea, or if people suggest just random word prompts, I draw pages from those. So today's is a bard, a sellsword, and a damsel walk into a tavern and sit at a table where they're joined by a wizard. That is today's page. If you're looking for Gandalf to join them at the table, that's not going to happen. I always get weird with things. So, like the giraffe telling the story of the where is it? The origin of his peoples, instead of letting this other guy, who's like totally knows it, tell the readers. So you gotta have fun. This reminds me of how fun it was when I was a kid drawing on a piece of paper with a pencil at the kitchen table. Oh, that's excellent. That's excellent. That's how drawing should feel. I've been watching the mushroom one the other day. Had me laughing. Oh, great. That's so good. Oh, the cordyceps ants. And I use real ants. I don't know. So here's all of our characters, and we can even add out so that we bump out just to push the element of depth. I would, if I have this as the panel, if I do a definitive line framing the panel in, I would let these guys' feet peek over it as though they're walking towards the viewer to give a sense of them in the forefront and of importance. But at the same time, just to mix with the scale of depth here, I would put these characters that have no real consequence, but I would put them peeking out a little bit as well. Just guys. And so there's our first foray into our story. It's 4 panels deep. It's the upper 3 or 2/5. I guess it's half. It's the upper half of the full page. But what it's introducing is the environment, so the context for the narrative. There's some comedic elements that we ourselves have inserted, like the Punchinello play instead of a television in the corner of the bar. So guys at the bar are watching that. Somebody's cheating at cards over here. We can do something fun with these 3 characters, like they're doing a barbershop harmony or something, whatever. And we've got these people playing cards here, but we can have them playing Go Fish or something, I don't know, or holding Uno cards. So whatever the silly elements that we're incorporating that maybe the viewer doesn't catch on the first reading, and it gives them something to pursue for the next time they read it. Sometimes those elements are fun, but we've established the character identities with their outfits. We put 9 pieces of flair on the sellsword as directed by Mariah. And then we've got these secondary panels introducing our characters, but also introducing a little extra node of their personality coming through. So it's slightly different head poses than they have in the introduction area. So it's almost as though, this is we can have his hat moving down as he's looking to the side and he's smiling over there, just to give a sense of mystery to our guy. If you want to see the whole of the hat and have a better understanding of it, that's what it would be. So, oops, I'm sorry, I did that off panel. There's the guy that's looking to the side and his hat off to here. So this, and the redirection of their expressions, just enhances their personality through for the reader. So identifiably, we've established who these 3 principal characters are. Musical instruments. Yeah, we've got him with a lute. What is it called? The little round, it's a sort of circular shaped guitar that he plays, or is a lute a flute thing? But it's like, I'm standing on the corner and I'm standing in the rain, whatever they would sing. Just making sure I'm caught up on chat. Sorry everybody if I miss you and stuff. Didi was having a hard time for her comments to come through earlier. So loud, loud at L-A-U-D, is that what it is? So there's our insertion of our characters and their identity. And so we've got her being demure with her hands crossed in front of her. A lute is stringed. Yeah, okay, so that's his lute. That's his stringed instrument over his shoulder as he's walking in and he's carrying it like so. Right? I could show you with my bass guitar over here, but it's way too big. So, a loud in Spanish. A lute or a loud? Lute? Loud. How about my lute is very loud? Anyways, so there's our first few pieces of the page in order to explain the narrative. So now when we come down, because we want to direct the reader's eye, and we want to do it in 2 different ways. I know Gary, I know him, says Jim. So we want to direct the reader's eye in 2 ways. One, visually. Now, visually, technically, your eye looks at them and it's either going to move downwards or it's going to recognize their faces and immediately jump over to their other faces, because there's a human trait that we all have where we're trying to identifiably recognize faces and expressions for connections or oncoming threats. So ideally the reader sees these characters and then immediately goes bing bong bing, and we've directed their eye through our panel. We've given them a little bit of an adventure of movement. Ideally, on any given comic page, you want to have the reader start here and have the reader end there with your visual storytelling, and you can do that in a couple of different ways. You can do it visually or you can do it textually. And what I mean by textually is where we have the placing of the word balloons. So this is our rough idea for what this is now. So what I would mean by that is that if our title's up here and we've got some, the comments coming from this guy, and as he says this, and this one says it in return, and then somebody says it over here, we've textually made the eye move in this direction, while visually we've made the eye move in that direction. So they follow suit together. So it's a proper fusion of the visual and textual elements, which is ideally what you want in this approach to storytelling. L-A-U-D. Accent dash. Okay. Laoud. So there's our direction for our characters and the breakdown of them on the page. And then we've got, this is our panel breakdown so that we make a more interesting exterior shape to the image. And it follows up, and it follows up, and it follows across. And we can bump this down a tiny bit if we want in order to fit more text up above. And then of course there's lots of spaces in here for our dialogue. Even though a la and ut, unique note do, are the other thing related. Lute, luthier, stringed instrument. The neck breaker. It's the same Mercury. There we go. So there's our basic breakdown for this, and we can extend a little bit up at the top if we want for the text and everything else. Okay, this is unimportant real estate, because this is real estate that we know for a fact is going to carry the majority of the overlay, whether it's the title or the text, whatever it is. So we want, but we've got a fun little thing happening with the room, which is why I adjusted this line for the top of the window down below, so that I can draw the room in this regard, so that the reader's eye is drawn to the key start of the information, which is the top of this guy's hat. So now we're looking at these two characters. And by being sneaky and having these sort of angled lines drawing in on the focus to where we want people to start, really they're going to start with the title, but then, oh, hey, look here. It's a subconscious thing. And so all the other elements are drawing in. The bar is over here. The shoulder lines are down to this third panel, technically move like that. Or these characters are moving forward into the center here. So we can have all these draw lines into the center of a page. So the main text can be just a greeting or description, and the smaller bubbles can be each of their thoughts. Oh yes, indeed. Another way that we could approach this is to, oh hey, look, another giraffe doodle. Another way that we can approach this, hi. Okay, so is that when you've got characters and you've got a layout, and here we got somebody sitting here, and he's got his fishing rod, let's say. Okay, so he's holding his fishing rod, and he's waiting for some fish. So whatever the way we want to look at this is if we have our character, we have all of this space. Now if we draw the background in with some bushes and a nice tree that he's sitting in front of, right, and you know, and here's some trees in the background here, so he's in a nice isolated spot, and this is a little dock, whatever it is, that all that visual complexity, we still want the viewer's eye drawn to here, right? The accent there's, so there we go with the plants, or with the branches of the tree, and then we go with the fishing rod. Our focus is here. So if you put, you know, and you write here on a bench, or on a dock, I guess would be appropriate. And then all this is word bubbles, little word balloons coming from his head. And this is this really big soliloquy that he's having of, boy, I sure do love fishing. Man, I love me some fish. You know, so we have all of this space, even though we've drawn this picture, that you can overlap that with all of his thoughts. You know, or and you know, and you can differentiate, like there's a sort of a structural language in a lot of sequential media, that this idea here is, you know, in the text laid inside, is the idea of a thought. That's a representation of thought because the bubbles go to the top of the head. And this is dialogue. So there's different, you know, and then you've got scary monster, or like you know, and if this has got a creepy, really heavy black outline, or even worse, it's dripping, you know, this is a representation of scary dialogue, you know, whatever weird things that people want to do. There's little staticky lines that people will do like this in order to represent, you know, this is some sort of robot or alien or whatever. So those panels you can utilize as another form of visual language, like the dialogue panels here, that you can utilize as another form of visual language to separate ideas for the reader. All of it is just exploration, right? Just visual exploration, or ways for us to tell the stories, for us to communicate the ideas and the stories that we have inside of us outwards. And all these little things are just little tools for how to do that. You know, there's a print that I saw on the Makers of Mixed Media. Somebody did a printing, and there was just this really elegant number 11 on this. I really liked the font, and I can't replicate it, of course. And it looked like it was a stamp with little indentations and this sort of flourish to the outside edge, like it's a stamp. You know, that single stamp on the complexity of whatever this, you know, image was, with all of the different elements that were within it, that stands up so, like, that stands out so strongly, and it works as this really powerful draw to the image. And we can do the same thing with the dialogue balloons. A square without anything is the voice off. Yes, that's a silent moment, and you can utilize those moments to let the character be reflective, to, you know, the character's splayed out on the ground and there's no text there. It's because the character's unconscious, you know. But in the pacing of a story, like I showed you with these panels, the 9 panels, if you have if you've got this panel where Guy is sitting here looking like so, and he's speaking, and within the panel it says, you know, I like pie, right? And in the next panel, his eyes are down, his nose is down, and his face is looking forlorn. And then we can replicate that same image, but then we add in the text, you know, and turn the camera a little bit, and then we add in the text, you know, I don't have any pie. But this beat right here tells us that, you know, I like pie. And then it's almost like there's a moment where he's looking down and goes, but I don't have any pie. But that pause gives an emotional resonance to the moment. So we can utilize those quiet moments just as well as we can utilize those moments where people are speaking. Am I off on a tangent right now? If I am, I'm sorry. Miriam, that sounds like your inner critic at work. So there's a combination of two things that can be used in telling stories sequentially. And what I mean by sequential is a transposition of moments that we've visualized over the course of a page. Like it's just a sequence of events from one action to the next action, from the start of a narrative element to its conclusion. I often use the example of a person has no milk. There's your first panel, and if you draw a person in front of the refrigerator, let's say, and their hand is holding open the refrigerator door, and so the refrigerator door, is behind him as they're standing there holding the fridge, and he's looking inside the fridge, it's right down in there, kneeling down. What we got in this here fridge? This is how I think people stand in front of the fridge, because I'm 6.5 feet tall, and this is what it feels like to stand in front of my fridge. I want a new fridge. Anyway, so as he's standing in front of the refrigerator and he's looking into it, because we've visualized him looking into the fridge, and so we've contextualized our narrative. What the story idea is, we can have a balloon that says, ain't got, here we go, double negative, no milk. Right? And so that is what he's saying. Or if you want to be fun and interesting about it, you can have them thinking it. But there are a little balloon bubble instead. So we don't have to show the fridge open without milk. We don't have to draw it from that angle, because we've drawn him looking into the fridge saying that he ain't got no milk. Therefore, we understand through our little subversive messing with our audience and the knowledge that probably in the world where they live, they have a refrigerator that they know what it looks like, and they know whether or not there's milk inside of it. So by just drawing the symbolic representation of a refrigerator from the side and our character looking into it and saying that there's no milk, our brains fill in all of those things to make that feel as a representation of reality, or a representation of the idea. Miriam says, I don't mind tangents. That's great. Stacy says, my brain sometimes, I was thinking his toes could be in the water, and a piranha in the water is thinking lunch. Excellent. See, that's excellent. And if we draw the crazy piranha to be way too big, and we draw it in the form of Pac-Man, I mean, that just adds in all kinds of additional elements. And then we can figure out ways in order to represent the water line and the fact that his toes are within it. We could do another panel down below that is his little toesy woesies sticking in through the water, right? I guess it would look like this. And then there'd be ripples around the water, and then here's the piranha looking up at it, and he's like, hey, lunch, and so we put this panel underneath that one, and there's a full story. It's not. We can then go on to the next page and define the piranha trying to bite the toes, and the kid jumping up off, onto the dock, going, ouch, and he's got the piranha stuck to his toe, and he's, is jumping around with one foot, and the piranha flapping around in the air attached to him. There's so much more we can do with this. But kid at the thing, and if you want to make it tied into the two elements together, if we have the kids, his thought balloon saying something along the lines of, it's so beautiful here, there's no one else around, I'm all by myself, I'm left to my own thoughts, and nothing could go wrong here, I'm just fishing and enjoying the moment, and there's a piranha down below looking at his toes saying, lunch. So that's not going to work out for the kid. Therefore, there's a sense of resolution to the initial argument. Because by the piranha saying lunch as he's looking at the toes, that we know in this panel are dipped into the water, then it gives a start of an action, the conclusion of an action, or implies the conclusion of an action. So it's a plot twist for a man who loves fishing. Well, Stacey, hold yours. I love that you'll do the same. Have a complete animated scene to your drawings. I love that you do. And I do the same. I'm sorry. Reading is hard. I love that you and I do the same. Have a complete animated scene to your drawings. Well, what we're trying to do in illustrating ideas to other people is that we need to have a carrying across of the idea in my head, and however it is that I've crafted it and written it up in my mind, unless I'm espousing it somehow, whether it's verbally or it's visually drawing it, it's the only way it gets to you. I can't put my hand on someone else's shoulder, especially through the interweb. I can't put my hand on your shoulder and pass it to you with telepathy. We need to figure out ways to communicate. And all this is another form of communication. Our communication can be as sophisticated as we like. We can write with flourished prose. I can use all kinds of large vernacular in order to get my ideas across. But if other people don't know that what vernacular means, it doesn't work. So the easier form of communication makes it more accessible to others. And I can visually put in all kinds of unnecessary complexity or all kinds of big, fantastic, overly rendered, realistic, defined images. Or I can focus on getting those key points of information across in my storytelling. It's not to say that the extremities of anything don't have their successes. Really incredibly simplified drawings are as easily successful as the person who has labored hours and hours and days and weeks and months on an image, if they carry across the key points of information in a way that is comprehensive to the person across of them. So Piranha cleans his dainty feet instead. Well, see, that's ready for a pedicure. Marguerite, those are great. But that's the point, is that, one person sees the resolve of this single page. Here's this image, there's a full page. And their idea for the story and where that's going to go is not going to be the same as the person sitting directly beside them. It's just not. This is why I always say that whatever the suggestions are, whatever the word prompts that people have given me, and despite whatever it is that I might have posted for that day, like today with the giraffe page, so when somebody else looks at, let's use this as an example, when somebody else looks at the suggestion that I got from Dee Dee, which is the origin of giraffes, I'm sorry, let me get it correct. A lot of suggestions in this book. Did I not? Oh, there it is. Where the giraffes originate from is the underworld. That's today's suggestion that I posted this morning. And where the giraffes originate from is the underworld. How I interpret that, you see the example of, but how somebody else interprets that as a narrative is vastly different. And that's wonderful. Absolutely wonderful in my mind. I did a piece the other day about, it was 3 words suggested: instant coffee, late, and mammoth. And so I did a little bit of an advertisement about, ladies, make sure you drink instant coffee. Be like Linda here, who gets to places on time because she drinks her coffee. Don't be like Tammy. Tammy does not drink instant coffee, and at the bottom, so I have a lady at the top with her coffee cup, and at the bottom third of the page I have a mammoth. Hey gang, sorry I was late. Hey, where is everybody? And of course the joke is that the mammoth, was just woken up out of the ice. But Chris Kalui did on her Instagram or Facebook, I can't remember, maybe both. She posted a mammoth late for a meeting because they're drinking instant coffee at a counter. And the mammoth is sitting up on a stool, and it's great. But what a completely different interpretation of the same three word prompts. 13 Teslas in the parking lot at night with red and blue lights. I'll put it in the book, Marguerite. Marguerite's got some great ideas. So, with suggestions like that, 13 Teslas in the parking lot. Now, see, you think cars in the parking lot, red and blue lights. At night, red and blue lights. You think the cars, I immediately think 13 versions of Nikola Tesla. Because I'm a weirdo. And that's just where my head goes. Like, I sort of, because I have, it's following that intuition, and because I have a highly referential way of thinking, I immediately think of Nikola Tesla. And so 13 Teslas in a parking lot has 13 scientists arguing, and the police pull up. It might not be what Marguerite meant. It might well be what Marguerite meant, but that's the joy, right? And so how she would draw that, as opposed to how I would draw that, very different. So I highly encourage and recommend everybody, whatever scribbly doodly nonsense you see me doing, give it a shot. Give it your own spin on things. Today's suggestion is a bard, a sellsword, and a damsel walk into a tavern where they are joined by a wizard. The way I'm going to do that is not going to be the way that you're going to do that. By exempling this sort of breakdown as opposed to just drawing finished images like I do many times, by doing the breakdown version of it, it just sort of shows you all of the sort of little ideas I have along the way, like the Punchinello, or the card cheat over here, or the guy sitting on a stool, watching what should be like TV but is instead a play, or all those little elements that I put in today's composition. So that's part of the fun, is to do this kind of thing and to have all kinds of mad thoughts. So, ain't got no milk, So the next thing would be guy walking to the store. Like this is there's panel 1, and the next thing would be, well, here he is with his really silly walk as he's kicking his best foot forward, and he's walking to the store, hands in his pockets, and we know. And so where is this guy walking? Well, that's where we can get away with going to get some at the store. Right? So we've done two things. We've shown him walking along a city street. There's our sidewalk. There's the curb. There's a little drain. Right? Here's a hedge row that goes to some houses. Whatever it is in the background. Okay? But we know he's going to the store to get some more milk because it says so. So while we haven't drawn him physically walking up to a store, which is another way to represent that, we've got him saying it out loud, going to get some from the store. Another thing you could do is have him at the store, and he's got his hands, and he's pulling his pockets out of his pants. Oh, great. So he's at the store, and he's got no money. And he says, oh, no. And we can, be a little more complex with that and have the counter and have a jug of milk sitting on the counter, and we can have a cash register, or we can have the guy standing at the counter, and here's the cash register here, and as he's standing there, to buy his milk, pulls his pockets out, represents, I have no money. I forgot my money. So utilizing the visual and the textual together enhances the story. You can do really great drawings, and it tells the entire story visually without any talking at all. Or you can do very functional drawings that get the key pieces of information across, but you're heavily reliant on all the descriptive prowess that you have textually to get the whole story across. Or you can try to figure out a fusion of the two so that they work together. I'm in front of the fridge, ain't got no milk. What am I missing? There are 12 stations at the parking lot where I am. Oh my. 13 Tesla balls with the electric current. See, Stacy, that's brilliant. That's your own interpretation of the same idea. I highly recommend you draw it, by the way. The leg pop on the mammoth standing was very cute. Oh yeah. Oh, for sure. You know, you gotta have stuff like that. The little kicked up heel. Police cars are at the bottom of the frame, says Stacy. Yeah, I think that, you know, you've got a page structure coming together there for sure. My guess, Marguerite, my guess is waiting for a station. Yeah, there you go. Bizarre, because there's a 500 kilovolt power line overhead. Well, yeah, you know, I don't. Is that a really strong power line for charging them? I would think so. So whatever it is. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed this up ahead. Miriam said, the fisherman says, don't eat without brushing your teeth. It's a promotion for toothpaste. That's, you know, you can do, yeah, there's your toothpaste thing at the very bottom. And, you know, right here you're going to have blah, 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 blah about toothpaste. And there's your whole page now broken up into those 3 positions. That's great. That's good fun. I like that. For the Piranha page, for those that aren't keeping up. 12 spot. Okay, so I was confused because the police are always at the grocery store, but it's the charge station light up when it's in use. Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay. So whatever it is, whatever the idea is, and I encourage everybody to, if you want to go through the Instagram or Facebook posts that I've done of the daily pages, if you look underneath where the text is, down below, the descriptive text, I write down the suggestion that was given for the page. And the reason I do that is that if people want to look at the said suggestion and interpret it their own way, I'm a huge fan of that. I really am. And I highly encourage people giving it a go. It's a lot of fun if there are other avenues where you can get prompted words, because sometimes idea generation can be a challenge. At the start of the various lockdowns in Canada, I opened up the opportunity for a number of people that I knew that were feeling a real sense of isolation to have engagement and interaction online. And my suggestion was, if you tell me a story idea, and then eventually added to the prompted words ideas. But if you tell me a story idea, I'll write and draw it in camera with you to just give you a sense of connection to people outside of your home. And for me to have a sense of connection to people outside of my home. And, you know, last year I did 358 pages. Doing it this way in the afternoons, it's a lot of fun. But any of those, and then we're already on what? This is 64 or 65 this year. So we're, you know, it's fun, and if anybody wants to take a crack at any of those things along the way, please, I recommend you do. But the idea of suggesting ideas to each other and the idea of suggesting word prompts to each other is it's a gift. It's a gift of ideas and a gift of inspiring your creativity and mine. In our small town, the town has 2 stations for charging. We bought a hybrid that charges itself but uses fuel too. We can run a month on a tank of gas with the energy boost. Nice! I drive a minivan because I fit in it. But my minivan is from, it's 12 years old now. Yep. We're due for a new one next year, I think, at this point. Do you laugh at yourself as the ideas come when you draw them? Yes. Oh yeah, you've seen me do it here live. But I'm a goofball. This is, you know, like the idea of this where I don't even think about it. I just follow my intuition. So when it comes to the giraffes come from the underground. Now I can draw the giraffes as big demons. You know, that have, you know, changed how they appear to walk up above the ground to spread evil or whatever. Or I can just make light of the joke that giraffes, being tall animals and understanding what it is to be tall, not as tall as them, of course, but There's a lot of ducking. You know? So that's my first joke. We couldn't stand up. There's nothing for us there to eat because, of course, they're grazers for herbivores. And it was also really hot, which was also a joke because where'd they go? Africa. It's also hot. So, Stacy says, now my brain won't stop. Now there's a cop holding the plug up. Apparently confused where to plug the electric cop car in. So that's great, Stacy. So there is your prompt to cut out things from magazines, draw really rough versions of the ideas spilling from your head, or do your best to render it in whatever way you're able to take on, and explore your ideas, even if it's just writing it down with stick people or really rudimentary drawings on a piece of paper. Why is that not as passable as some fantastic... I'm sorry, I'm pointing at things that I don't have in camera right now. I apologize. These, simplistic approaches to drawing or stick figures, why is that not as valid as a fantastically, intricately drawn, image where everything is in perfect perspective, and it looks like it's living, breathing reality on paper? Well, they're both as equally valid as one from the other, as long as they're telling us the key pieces of information. And all the people that I've taught doing workshops and things like that in schools, I've taught from grade 3 all the way up into university postgraduate business students. The postgraduate business students, the adults, are the ones that had far more declarations of, I can't draw anything. I can't even draw stick figures, because as we get older, we tell ourselves that we can't do things. And we tell ourselves that we don't have the facility for stuff. But we do. All of us do. And like this, like crocheting, like anything else, it's just practice. Over time, we get better at things that we do. But we can, even if it's just somebody standing here like this, and you put a box and you write on it fridge, and it says there's no milk. This is as legitimate as anything else I've drawn today. Fridge, guy, no milk. That's this. That's the exact same thing. So, you say hot, my mind goes the hat. Marguerite thinks it's cool that your mind is exploding with ideas, Stacy. So that's great. Stacy, when I think of the plug, it makes me think of a bathtub. Why is a cop pulling into a tub? There, Minglet, that itself is a fantastic story for you to draw, or for you to scrapbook, or for you to whatever. And that's the joy of this, is that whatever idea one of us has, everybody else runs in different directions with it. And so I can say, there's ain't got no milk, and people go in a different direction. Or Marguerite can suggest 12 Teslas in a parking lot, and while you guys are thinking of these wonderful complex things with cars and waiting for spots and police pulling bathtub plugs, and I'm thinking of Nikola Tesla, 12 versions of the same scientist arguing in a parking lot, and the police have to break it up. All of these things are all generated from Marguerite's idea. Marguerite's fault. She did it. She's responsible. Oh man, no milk, no money, no story. There you go. That's it. That's the gist of that whole story. The final panel is is a reversal of this one, as he's walking back home to get his wallet. So there's a complete arc of a story. No milk, go to store. No money, go back home to get the money. And you'd have him walking, and he says, "Now I need to go back and get my money." There's your whole story. 4 pieces of text, 4 pieces of visual element, and the key things that we want to get across in each. So there we go. Yeah. Okay. Well, I hope that talking through these things has been helpful for people. I'm gonna wrap it up for today. I'll leave the rest of this to surprise for what I'm gonna do and I'll post this page for Monday. On the weekends, I post Monday to Friday on Instagram and Facebook. I do the streams 2 p.m. EST, Monday through Friday, and talk about whatever we're working on each day, from whatever ideas have been thrown at us each day, and then on weekends I post on the Patreon as well. So the Patreon, there's extra things that I put on there, and I've got a backlog of stuff I have to put up right now. So yeah, this is where you can find what I'm doing. I hope people are having fun, and I hope people are getting all kinds of inspiration and generating ideas for themselves, and give themselves the opportunity to explore those. And thank you, everybody, for taking part and for suggesting those ideas. Thank you very much, everyone, for being so nice to Lori, my wife, when she joined us at the earlier part of the stream today. And yeah, this has been a really enjoyable stream. So thanks very much, everybody. I'll be back Monday at 2 p.m. if I don't pop in over the weekend and say, hey, surprise video. What am I missing? Miriam Yadram with a hat in his hand collecting donations from Milk Buddy. I have 3 ideas already. Oh my goodness. Thank you so much. That's so great, everybody. Thank you for a fun afternoon. Hey, thank you very much for taking part. I hope everybody has a great weekend. And Miriam says, thank me and Lori. I'll pass it on. I will see everybody, maybe, hopefully, 2 p.m. Monday afternoon. Okay? Bye for now. Thanks once again.